It is 10 o'clock, and despite Councillor James' denial, I'm going to claim credit for the lovely weather today. And welcome you to know, if you've not been here before, the fantastic facility, and I think many of us were a bit sort of agnostic about it to start with, if not a bit sort of doubtful that it would be successful, but it is an amazing place. And if you want to have a look around after, please, you know, go to the reception and ask for somebody, because they'll gladly take you around and show you. And the other bit of good news is that the roadworks that were meant to be on today between here and Brindisi have been put off to a later date in March. So the staff have had a bit of a performance trying to rearrange it. But anyway, hope you enjoy your visit here and have a look round. I've got to go through I say welcome to everyone, and particularly welcome to Becky Coombs, who's a new member who represents the Insta Ward, who just won a by-election there. So welcome, Becky. It's nice to see you here. I think everyone, would it be useful for you, Becky, if we went round the room? It would, wouldn't it, probably? So we just do that. I'll just go through the bit of housekeeping first. And please switch off your mobile phones, and we are being recorded. So if you could please address everybody at their titles rather than by their Christian names, it would be great. We don't think there's going to be a fire alarm, but if the alarm does go off, we've just got to scatter into the car park. Apparently, that's
car park.
yeah. And then we'll have a count up if that does happen. I say it is being recorded, and it'll be available on the both councils' YouTube channels, I believe. Thank you very much. So we go around the room. First of all, then, Becky, my name is Malcolm Price. I'm the chairman this year of this working party, and I represent Bratton Fleming, and I'm the lead member for strategic planning and economy on North Devon Council.
Thank you, Chair. I'm Sarah Jane Shapland, Head of Place Property and Regeneration at North Devon Council.
Elizabeth D, Senior Planning Policy Officer at North Devon Council.
Good morning, Ian Rowland, Planning Policy Team Leader at Torridge District Council.
Good morning, Helen Smith, Planning Manager at Torridge.
Good morning, Peter Hames, Appledore Representative on District Council at Torridge and Lead Member for Climate.
Good morning, Councillor Chris Leather, Northern Ward on Torridge, and I'm on the Planning Committee at Torridge as well.
Claire Hodson, Deputy Leader at Torridge and Lead Member for Housing, and I represent the Westwood Ho Ward.
Good morning, Philip Hackett, Torridge District Council, Chair of Audit, and I represent Broadheath Ward.
Good morning, Doug Smith. I represent Great Torrington. I'm on the Planning Committee. I'm the Vice Chair of Torridge District Council.
I'm James, Leader at Torridge, and I represent all the wards around Holsworth, the rural wards.
Do you want to say any more?
You can go if you want. I do know you do though.
Yeah. David Warden, South Moulton, and Vice Chair of Devon Council.
Plain Old Glen Lane, North Devon District Council. My ward is Lanky, Swinbridge, and Bridgestone, and that's it. Thank you.
Well, my name is Phil Pennington. I always attend because if Torridge don't have the full 7, I'm always a substitute. So I'm available here if they want me, but I gather that I'm still at the back here. I represent Dunkley and Lidlam. I've been involved in the council for 20 years. I'm really interested in rural planning, and I'm really worried about the biodiversity net gain that's going to come forward with inner cities developing, offsetting, and all the other bits and pieces that go with it. So I attend these meetings because I do worry for our rural areas of what's going to come down the line for the future. So I always attend. Thank you.
And I'm Kate Johnston. I'm from North Devon Council, and I'm providing the clerk duties for this year.
Thank you, Kate. Item 1 then, apologies for absence. We've got a few of those, I think. Have we got some stuff?
Yes. I've received apologies from Councillor Walker, who was appointed Councillor Keane as a sub, Councillor Locke, who's appointed Councillor Leather as a sub, Councillor Cottle Hunkin, who's appointed Councillor Smith as a sub chair.
Thank you, Ray.
And I believe then
Also apologies from Bob.
I was going to say Councillor Hicks as well. It's just apologies for no sub.
Okay.
Thank you.
Super, thanks very much. Could we then go on to item number 2, which is to agree the minutes of the meeting held on the 21st of January. Everyone had a chance to have a look through. Do you want me to go page by page, just in case there's anything comes up? I think. Page 1. Page 2, the changes to the framework. Page 3, the 5-year housing land supply update. Page 4 continues. And page 5 of the feedback from the growth workshop of November last year. Is it your wish that sums it to reference, or would you like to move? Move, thank you, Ken. Second. Sorry, Councillor James, I must have already. Yeah. Seconded by Councillor Lane. Thank you very much. Those in favour? Anyone against? Sorry, thank you very much
I'm
indeed.
abstaining because I was present.
Abstain.
Thank you very much. Item number 3 then is matters brought forward. I have none. But hopefully we won't be around for too long this lovely day. So item number 4 then, declarations of interest.
Received none, Chair.
Item 5, to agree the agenda between A and B, there is no part B. So we move on to item 6, the local development scheme, which is on the agenda pages 11 to 28. Ian, are you going to lead on there?
I am, yes. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, good morning, everybody. So the item in front of you is to consider a new local development scheme. Members are reminded that local planning authorities are required to prepare, publish and maintain their programme for what are called development plan documents. So i.e. the local plan and the documents that make up the local plan under section 15 of the Planning and Compulsory Purchase Act 2004. So we do that through the local development scheme as a formal document. Our previous local development scheme was published in March 2022, and that was alongside the soft launch of the People and Place project. Now, that is somewhat out of date now, as we can imagine, mainly due to somewhat of a hiatus, I would suggest, with plan making and the national planning reforms, and some local context changes too. So we have to recognise that we want to progress with the local plan. But we do still have that hiatus at the national level to some degree, which makes it slightly more difficult for us to actually put together a programme. However, the Deputy Prime Minister indicated an ambition for all areas to have an up-to-date local plan as soon as possible. And she did that alongside the publication of the National Planning Policy Framework in December last year. And alongside that, there was a requirement for all local planning authorities to set out their new programme for plan making within a period of 12 weeks from the publication of the National Planning Policy Framework. And that takes us up to the 6th of March. So preparing a programme is somewhat challenging, as we don't have all of the details of what the new plan making system might look like. There's transitional arrangements in place that allow us to prepare under the existing legislation up to the submission of a document at the end of December 2026. However, unfortunately, where we are with our plan making programme, that is just not realistic and achievable. We all know that it takes multiple years to get a plan prepared and then to a point of submission with all of the consultation processes that we need to go through, etc. So we have to make our best estimates as to what that programme might look like. Look, MHCLG, Ministry of Communities and Local Government, Housing Communities and Local Government, have indicated that we should base our forward-looking programme on the proposals that have been set out for consultation previously by the previous government, and that should be the foundation for what they're considering taking forward in any case. What we don't have yet is the legislation for what that will bring in and what that programme of work might look like from a statutory perspective. And we don't know exactly and precisely when they may bring that legislation in to allow us to progress through that new programme of plan making. We have an indication that that should be in place by summer or autumn of this year, but it's still only an estimate at this stage. We also have revisions to the sustainability appraisal and strategic environmental assessment regime that accompanies the local plan. And there's a direction that they are looking to progress with what are called environmental outcome reports to replace that. Again, we don't have the detail of that as yet. And they are looking to publish national development management policies so that you won't need to do that as part of your local plan. What we don't know, again, is what they will look like. And they are looking to publish those for consultation, we understand, sometime in the spring, so sometime soon. So what does that mean? It means that we're actually trying to put together a programme with a lot of uncertainty at this stage. but that we are required to do that and obligated to do that. And it's right that we do that because we want to be pushing forward with our plan making in any case. That's all acknowledged by MHCLG, and they recognise that we are having to try and set this out with a little bit of crystal ball gazing, for want of a better word. Nonetheless, we have prepared a timetable, and it's based upon the government's 30-month programme for plan making, which they set out, the previous government has set out through their consultation. And the key dates for that are set out in table 1 on page 14 of your agenda. So I'll run through those dates, if that's okay, Chair. That's about scoping, as we are now, and preparing early evidence, etc., before the formal start of that 30 months. The timetable would then suggest, and the programme and the previous consultations, that we would need to publish a formal notice to consultees 4 months before the formal start of the 30-month plan-making programme. And that would be in October 2025. So we've taken a precautionary approach and suggesting that it's in the autumn rather than the summer in terms of the government getting all of that legislation in place. Gateway 1, which is the start of the 30-month programme, which is where you would have an advisory meeting to check that they sense check what you're doing and what you're proposing to do and where you're going with your plan making. That will be in February of 2026 at the end of that 4-month period. And then we move into the substantive meaty element of it, which will be plan preparation from February 26 through to December 2027. And these are the dates that are all set out in the timeline that have been subject to the previous government consultation. Gateway 3, which is another one of those meetings, which is a stop-go meeting to allow you to progress to examination, would be in January 2028. And it's advised at the moment that that's likely to be with the planning inspectorate, so that you're not wasting time going through an examination if they don't think that there's a legitimate chance that your plan will be successful in doing so. Examination would then run from January 2028 to June 2028, with finalisation and adoption of the plan July 2028, and then ongoing management, monitoring and implementation through August and beyond. So the realism and achievability of that is somewhat unknown at the moment, because we don't know what the shape of it will be, or whether we will be able to start at the start of the timings that are set out. It does, however, fit relatively well with the proposals for local government reorganisation, and ensuring that we've got as far as possible with a locally established vision and a direction for how Northern Devon wants to develop, which this committee has previously suggested is an important aspect and something that we really need to be mindful of. So I'll leave it there. Recommendations are on page 11 of your report, and they are that members of the Joint Planning Policy Committee endorse the draft local development scheme that's provided at Appendix 1 for publication, and authorise the submission of that programme contained within it to the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government by their deadline of the 6th of March 2025. I'll leave it there, Chair, and happy to take any questions.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think the point you made just before the end there, how important it is for us to, whatever happens with local government reorganisation, we want to get to a point where it's unpickable, as it were, don't we? We want to make sure we've got our stamp on it and get that far. Councillor James.
I was just going to recommend the recommendation, submit the recommendations that we approve, so we can just move on.
Thank you very much.
Happy to second, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Haggart. Could I just ask, Mark, in terms of consultants out there and any work that needs doing, is the market a little looser now? Is there more capacity to help us, or is it still pretty hectic?
I think it's a little bit unknown at this stage, to be honest with you. I would hope that there would be sufficient capacity at this point in time to be getting on with that, and I guess we'll find out relatively soon.
Yeah.
So do you need any approvals to go and do any of that, or is that all
I think we
delegated?
had that at the last committee.
We're having Bob in a minute.
Bob's coming.
Yeah.
Should we get the vote out the way?
He won't be able to vote because he's not in the introduction.
Yes.
Yeah, just want to ask a question because I am particularly concerned for our rural communities with the changes coming through from biodiversity net gain, which came in last year. And you did a wonderful for Torridge councillors last year as well. I'm worried for agriculture because there's going to be huge pressures. We're being asked to reduce dairy production and lamb production by 25%, etc., etc. We're going to replace that with trees. The rural economy depends on people. I'm afraid that when we go to unitary, we're going to have a rural economic voice diluted by either Exeter or Torbay or Plymouth or whatever the unitary is going to be. And I'm really concerned that we on this committee, or not we, because I'm not on the committee, but I'm asking the question here, what are we doing to protect the rural economy? Because we are rural, that's our strength. But I'm afraid that when we go past 2028, everything is going to become very diluted. And it's all based on these biodiversity net gains, etc., etc. Heathrow, third runway, is going to be trees brought to the West Country. And we are going to really pay a high price, and we're going to see our wages go down at the expense of urban areas, wages go up.
I think the middle section in that timetable is the answer to that, really, that if the vision is worked out and sorted in the next 18 months or so, then that should protect our rural bits. Ian, would you like to respond?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Chair. I think it's about setting out the stall of what we want as our vision and of what we want to protect, what's important to us, what we want to prioritise. I'm not as concerned as you are in terms of biodiversity net gain and the implications of wider areas wanting to dump that on us, for want of a better word. But I do recognise your concerns around that. And the key will be that we look at all of that as a collective, and that we put in place the right proposals that take forward what we want to see for our area.
Yeah, I think because I sit on the LGR group and on which local government reform group and the devolution group. From Porridge's point of view, we are trying to get as much in place by 2027, and there will be announcements on Monday regarding that, because we recognise, and I recognise particularly, the exposure Northern Devon has to the fact that so much is driven by urban areas, or could be driven by urban areas under the reorganisation. So it is being dealt with. It's being dealt with at a strategic level, and so it's not forgotten. I've fought hard along with your leaders to ensure that Torridge and North Devon stick together. We have strong representation through it. And there were some maps that were issued, was not helpful, but they've been discounted. And at the moment, we are sticking together. And if only we could replicate the economic improvements that are happening in Northern Devon, we would be in quite a strong position to actually have a much bigger say. We are probably 2 years behind the curve in terms of that. So I haven't got any particular fear. I think it's being dealt with at a strategic level, and I think your leader, along with myself that sit on the committee, are determined that we don't get lost.
I know that a lot of my colleagues have got a lot of disquiet about the balance between the rural and the urban within a lot of the options, and I think a lot of our members are asking that not one option is put forward to government, that there should be a range of options to reflect that, because we're having a debate about local government or organisation, but not government. But what is important is that we continue to work together on this, and I completely support what you said, Ken. The idea of splitting North Devon and Torridge apart in any option would be a big mistake. Yeah, and we must stick together. I think that's certainly true. But I think there needs to be an option that does recognise the rural bits of Devon that are different to the south, in my view, as an option to go forward to government. And the other thing that's not happened to me, which is a most worrying thing, is that there's actually no talk of real public consultation in the process at all, is there? And that is
key, because a lot of my residents are asking me questions about this biodiversity net gain, about the pressures on their businesses, and they're not hearing what you're doing as a joint committee, and that's a concern, Chair.
Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Chairman. Good to have a plan going forward. But I mean, we have still got the issue of this increase in numbers we've got to provide going forward. And I think we need to address that sooner than later, because if we don't, we're going to come unstuck, because we're going to end up with a lot more applications in areas we don't necessarily need. And I think in that process, we need to address that as soon as possible to try to resolve some of the issues going forward. Otherwise, we're going to be stuck with applications which we don't need.
What I can say is, and Councillor James and Councillor Hicks have been at the last meeting as well, the SLAR process has looked at a huge number of additional sites, and the ones that are in the local plan at the moment that have not been delivered. So that work is going on at pace, and it's been very impressive, the rate that's been dealt with, to be fair to both teams. I mean, they've done a really good job on that. So that is ongoing anyway. So I think we've recognised the need for housing supply figures to be increased.
And Chair, yeah, just to say, obviously we're in a position, as was reported at the last committee, that we don't have a 5-year housing land supply at the moment, and you're right. What we will look to do is review that as swiftly as we can and see whether or not we're able to re-establish that, which isn't necessarily an impossible task. So as soon as we're past April and we can start to look at the next year's worth of information, and it won't be directly as soon as April, we'll look at where we can go with that, and whether or not it is possible to re-establish that, so that we've got a stronger foundation in the short term to be able to plan appropriately for where this committee and others would like to see the housing, rather than it becoming across via hostile applications.
Thank you.
Welcome, Councillor Hicks.
My apologies.
We thought you were at a show in Bristol, but
I was.
You were.
I've come back from Bristol this morning.
oh, welcome anyway. We have a proposer and a seconder that we adopt the recommendations. Is there any other debate or any amendment? Councillor
Hodgson. Thank you. I've read this with interest. The issue for me is we have a time frame that does not mention at any level the implications for a district election just before the Gateway 3.
I don't think there will be. I think we'll end up having an extra year.
But we don't know. So surely we should be acknowledging the fact that that is a risk to not being able to meet this timetable. You know, if we ignore it on the basis that it might not happen, we do not know none of us have crystal balls on here, but we need to acknowledge the fact that there could be a change in the environment of our, you refer to this committee might not exist. This committee might be a completely different format. So I think in the sense of making sure that we're covering every facet, we've heard the concerns about the rural-urban balance. I'm concerned about the political balance and the changes in our structures. And I think we need to acknowledge how that could impact on the delivery of this plan.
Yeah.
So, Chair, we would certainly be looking to update our risk register and our sort of internal project management documentation. And we can certainly make sure that it's highlighted through there. I'm not so sure that it needs to necessarily go in here. It's kind of kept in here in terms of uncertainty, and we'll keep it under review and updated to take account of any changes in circumstances at 4.1 in the document. So that's more in and around in terms of risks. But I would suggest that we certainly look to, in terms of our internal documentation, to have it in there, because you're absolutely right. So I think we need to make sure that we're aware of all risks that are associated to it, and that could be a significant one.
Could be a risk or an advantage. I mean,
maybe
they might get much more capable people than us.
Yeah.
Younger even.
Yeah.
And I imagine whatever the unitary situation is, it would be important that we send on the message that if there is any work to do, that it is dealt with by members from this part of the world, rather than, I mean, back many years ago, back in the 1980s, I was sat on the Exwell National Park when Somerset County used to send all their representatives from Yeovil to sit on the, and it did cause some friction, to say the least. And I think similar sort of thing that, you know, but we can deal with that when we know what the outcome is likely to be, can't we?
Sorry, can I just round up with saying, I think this is really important that we progress with this so that we've got something, whatever the world may look like in the future, that we've got some research and we've got some documentation to feed into whether we have a plan that is all encompassing for the unitary or the area. I think that is important. I just wanted to make sure we weren't saying, this is what we're going to do. Total officers, I believe in you. You're not all going to change at the whim of the electorate, but we might. Thank you.
And those of us that lived through the days when the heavy-handed county council structure plan sort of trumped everything you wanted to do at local level, I hope we don't go back to those days as well. Anyway, then, is there anybody else wish to speak on the recommendation? I'll put it there.
Sorry, Chair, I would just say it is important we stick to where we're going. There are dates within the LGR and the resolution, which is basically, we should know the 21st of March, what is theoretically being proposed, and we will know by November what may be proposed. And that is only this year. So, you know, we don't stop and wait, we just carry on it, not ignore it, but we get our case in place. And as I said, at Torridge, we are looking at 2027 to get as much tied up as we can.
I think legacy is important for both councils. I think that's right. It's interesting that they, you know, the amount of work they expect the civil servants to do when they're actually going to cut their numbers. It'll be interesting to see how this all pans out in the timetable that they've set. But anyway, I'll put it to the vote then. Those in favour of the recommendation, anyone against? I'm not against. No, you're for.
I'm a bit slow.
Yeah. I'll resist the temptation to comment on that. Glenn. Thank you very much. It's carried. Item 7, to note to actually agree, not to note, to agree that the meetings for the next 12 months, they're set out on the agenda. Is everyone happy with the Friday morning still? Yeah. That agreed then?
Yeah.
Fine. Thank you very much. I declare the meeting closed.
Do you want it proposed or?
Well, yeah, go on then. Yeah.
I'm easy, you know.
I like democracy as well. Yeah.
Right. No, I'm happy to propose. We stick with those dates.
Thank you very much. That's seconded. Yeah. Those in favour? Anyone against? Carried. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah. You against though?
I'm against, yeah, because a couple of those dates I'm actually working in Manchester, so I can't attend. But anyway, I mean, don't worry.
Chair, as a thought, would it be possible to have some of the Zoom meetings where we're not effectively making a decision?
We're not. I don't think legally we can.
A committee meeting, you can't.
This is in the trouble is we're woven into our two constitutions, aren't we? And I think we are a bit. If there's a need for workshops in between, I think that would be really useful, Phil. I think that would.
Chair, I believe I'm right that councillors can attend virtually if they want to, but they would attend as if they weren't on the committee, so they won't be able to vote. But if you couldn't come in for some reason you wanted to attend virtually, you can do.
I mean, I've noticed that. Well, certainly, only very early on did we have any real division. I think that we've had consensus, so I think we'd be able to make that work, wouldn't we? So, David, yeah, if you're away, you know, and you want to have a break on the Friday morning, we'll be very.
I won't be able to because I'll be chairing meetings.
Oh, I just think it's important. I think we want to send the message back, particularly to our council, that you know, to have spaces here that people aren't substituting and people aren't taking up. You know, it's a bit embarrassing.
Most unfortunate.
Yeah. Anyway, so I declare the meeting closed. Thank you very much.